The ballroom glittered like a treasure chest turned inside out. Chandeliers rained light across silk gowns and tuxedos. Violins sang in the corner, and the air smelled of roses and expensive champagne. Tonight was the city's most talked about charity gala, an evening where the elite congratulated themselves for giving away what they could spare. Carolyn had not planned to attend. For years, she had avoided these circles, the circles that once defined her life when she was Mrs. Matthew Hollingsworth. But the organizers had begged her presence, and she had one more reason to be there: anonymity. Her check, the largest in the foundation's history, was already in their account. Her name carefully hidden behind the title, Anonymous Benefactor. It wasn't pride that drove her. It wasn't revenge. It was simply the right thing to do. The foundation worked with children from the city's poorest neighborhoods, and Carolyn had always cared more for them than she ever did for the hollow glamour of her ex-husband's socialite world. Still, the irony of the night wasn't lost on her. For once, she was here on her own terms. She entered quietly in a gown of midnight blue. It wasn't loud or ostentatious, but its cut framed her elegance. She didn't need sequins to draw attention. Heads turned anyway, and one pair of eyes narrowed. Matthew, he was impossible to miss. Tall and commanding in his tailored suit, holding court with investors and minor celebrities, like he was the king of some glittering kingdom. At his side was Vanessa, his new wife, a woman 10 years younger with diamond earrings so large they nearly brushed her collarbones. Carolyn hadn't seen him in nearly 5 years, not since the divorce had ripped through her life like a hurricane. He had walked away with the houses, the yacht, and Vanessa soon after. She had walked away with nothing but her dignity and the resolve to rebuild her life from scratch. When he spotted her, he excused himself from his admirers and strode across the room, Vanessa trailing behind him like a perfume cloud. "Well, well, Carolyn," he said, his voice loud enough to turn a few heads. "I didn't expect to see you here. This is hardly the neighborhood book club." His smile dripped condescension. Carolyn met his gaze steadily. "Good evening, Matthew." Vanessa chimed in, her tone honeyed but sharp. "Carolyn, how lovely. I've heard you've been keeping busy. Doing volunteer work, wasn't it?" It was meant as a dig. In their world, volunteer work translated to "she can't afford anything better." "Yes," Carolyn said simply. "I find it meaningful," Matthew chuckled, tilting his glass. "Meaningful, but small. You always did have a soft spot for playing saint, didn't you? Tell me, Carolyn, what's it like living such a modest life?" The word modest rolled off his tongue like an insult. Around them, a couple of his friends smirked. Carolyn felt the sting but refused to show it. She only lifted her chin. "It's fulfilling," she said. Matthew leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough. "You could have stayed with me, you know. All of this," he gestured around the room, "was yours once. But you wanted independence, didn't you? How's that working out for you?" Before she could answer, Vanessa pressed his arm, laughing. "Darling, don't tease. Caroline's doing her best. Her best." As if she were a charity case herself. Caroline excused herself with grace, though her heart thudded. She moved to the quiet edge of the ballroom, near the silent auction tables. There she breathed, grounding herself. She had not come here for Matthew's approval, nor his mockery. She had come for the children. Still, old wounds throbbed. The evening rolled forward with toasts, laughter, and the endless clinking of crystal glasses. Carolyn kept to herself, exchanging a few polite conversations, but she remained on the outskirts. It didn't matter. She knew what was coming. Near midnight, the host tapped the microphone, calling for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude, I have the immense honor of acknowledging a remarkable act of generosity. This year, our foundation received the single largest donation in our history. It comes from an anonymous benefactor." A murmur swept through the room. People leaned forward. Anonymous donations always sparked gossip. The host continued, "This gift ensures the continuation of our programs for the next decade. It will build new schools, fund scholarships, and provide health care for thousands of children." Applause thundered. Matthew clapped politely, his expression smug, as if he expected his name to be revealed. After all, he was the man who loved public gestures, but then the host smiled. "At the request of the benefactor, we reveal them tonight. Please join me in honoring Carolyn Whitmore." The room gasped. Every head turned. Every whisper hissed like wind through the chandeliers. Carolyn rose slowly, her gown shimmering under the lights. Matthew froze, his glass halted halfway to his lips. Vanessa blinked, her smile slipping. Carolyn walked to the stage with calm poise. Applause swelled, hesitant at first, then roaring as the reality sank in. She, the woman mocked for her small life, had just outgiven every titan in the room. She accepted the microphone, her voice steady. "Thank you. I don't believe generosity should be about recognition, but tonight I will share this moment because the cause matters more than my preference for privacy. These children deserve opportunity. They deserve hope. And I am honored to help give it to them." Her words were simple, true, nothing like the self-congratulating speeches Matthew used to give. When she returned to her seat, strangers stopped her along the way. Hands reached out, thanking her. Respect shone in their eyes. For once, she wasn't Matthew's ex-wife. She was Carolyn Whitmore, benefactor, builder of futures. Matthew sat rigid, his face pale under the ballroom lights. Vanessa whispered something sharp into his ear, but he didn't move. His empire of arrogance had cracked in one blow, not from confrontation, but from quiet, undeniable truth. Later, as the crowd thinned and guests departed, Matthew approached her again. His tone was different now, stripped of mockery. "Caroline," he said, forcing a smile, "that was impressive, truly. I had no idea you were doing so well." She looked at him, her eyes clear. "That's because you never cared to know." He flinched, just slightly. "Enjoy your evening, Matthew," she added, before turning away. Outside, the night air was cool, crisp against her skin. The city lights glittered, but not as brightly as the sense of freedom inside her chest. For years, she had carried the weight of his dismissal, his arrogance. Tonight, she had shed it completely. Her life might look small to him, but in truth, it had grown vast, filled with purpose, with meaning, with power of its own. And Matthew would never diminish it again.